Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Caring for Caregivers mental health program. And before we get started, just take a moment to thank our sponsors, in particular Jazz Pharmaceuticals, for their belief in this program and their understanding of the need for it. As you know, Mickey's Miracles is primarily a pediatric epilepsy organization. Our goal is to get children who may have pediatric epilepsy to a level 4 epilepsy center urgently for a diagnosis and highest care of treatment. But through our journey with the parents, the warrior families that we've worked with, we also felt there was a tremendous need for a conversation around caregiver mental health, and that includes burnout, anxiety, PTSD, grief, and all the things associated with each one of those areas. And we took this to our board, Christy, our visionary CEO and founder, and we had a robust conversation about stepping outside of pediatric epilepsy to create a program that would be available to all caregivers for children suffering from a medically complex issue. Because we found that the same challenges existed, whether or not the underlying diagnosis was something neurological or something different, whether it was epilepsy or autism, or the amount of impact it had on mom and dad and the other caregivers was very similar. The threads were similar. So we created a program open to all families, all caregivers of medically complex children, working with their children to really give them a place where they can call community, they can connect to, they can get practical coping skills and tips. And today we have a really exciting program, and we haven't really done this before, so it's somewhat new and probably a little bit different than we've done before. We've had some fantastic mental health specialists and experts guide us through some conversations, question and answers, practical exercises. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. We don't often hear the dad perspective. We don't often get to experience the dad perspective because by and large, the primary caregiver, I know this is generalization, but it's just our experience, that the primary caregiver for the families we deal with, are the mom. So today we have, what I would call a very kind of honest and vulnerable and insightful conversation with Gabriel Grease. Most of you know, if you're part of our community, and for those you don't know, Gabe is Michaela Grease's dad. Michaela is the young woman, the young lady that Mickey's Miracles is named after. If you want to learn more about her story, you can go to mickey'smiracles.org. But Gabe is her father, and I've had the chance in working in various capacities with Mickey's Miracles and now becoming friends with both Christy and Gabe to observe his approach to having a child with pediatric epilepsy. And needless to say, I've been very impressed with his ability to stay even and to really navigate the challenges of mental health. And I thought it was important to kind of capture the conversation and share it with all of you at home. So with that, our regular webinar kind of programming and format is going to be deviated. But I think you'll agree that it's for a worthwhile cause here in this conversation that we captured. But it's important to have a conversation around it. Like I've always been incredibly impressed at how even you are through some of the stuff that you deal with, right? And I mean, I've seen you go through long-term monitoring with Mickey and go 2 nights without sleep. I've seen you be the only parent in the room because of COVID. I've seen your reaction to a whole myriad of life experiences with Christy and, of course, Mickey. How do you stay so even?
Well, Well, thank you for the compliment. I take that.
It's observation, no compliment there.
No, I appreciate. I like to consider myself even. I think the military probably has a mountain to do with that.
Yeah.
Exposed to crazy, stressful things well beyond your control, and so just handling whatever's really immediately in front of you.
Yeah.
You know, we had a joke. We said, "Kill the alligator that's going to bite you first." But you live in a swamp and there's alligators everywhere.
Yeah.
So you're never done handling it. But
yeah.
So I think there's probably some of that. And then Christy, you know, we're good as a couple, and so having that solid family grounding foundation piece is awesome.
I did notice a little bit different demeanor from you last time when we were in Orange County together.
Mm-hmm.
For those who don't know, Mickey had some spikes in her monitoring, overnight spikes, over 50, and the epileptologists were concerned that could potentially be a gateway to seizures.
Yes.
After 10 years of seizure freedom. And I think it was while we were waiting for the results that I came in across you, and you felt a little bit more, serious than usual, maybe more somber than usual, and it was just a different Gabe to me, you know. And I kind of wondered what was underneath that, because up until then I'd only seen like the unflappable, very gregarious, very kind of easygoing Gabe, but I felt a different kind of, intensity from you, and even stoicism from you. I wonder what was going on there.
Well, so we'd been on the same drug for 10 years, Depakote, and there's some challenges with that drug as a young girl becomes a young woman, and so we'd consulted and worked on taking her off of that drug, and lamotrigine was the drug that Dr. Phillips was like, hey, we think this is the right one, and having not had a seizure for 10 years and having been on a single drug for 10 years and now being like, hey, let's try a different drug. There's a risk there. Even though we have great faith in the facility and the doctors and the science and all of that, there's still, hey, this is one person, the chemistry of one brain, and just because it's worked for other kids doesn't mean it's going to work for Mickey. And so I think waiting for those results was really stressful. And this kind of goes back all the way to the beginning, in that before Mickey's brain surgery, we visited countless doctors and went through probably 8 different anti-seizure medications. And Christy's mommy alarm was screaming the whole time, like, none of this is going to work. None of this is going to work. This is terrible. We need something different.
Yeah.
And my military training had me in all right, doc, what are we going to do? Okay, we're going to dose it every 3 hours and 37 seconds. Okay, great. 3 hours and 37 seconds later, I'm doing whatever the doctor asked us to do. And so once we were on a plan, I was then calmer. I'm like, we'll execute the plan, we'll get to the end, and then we'll see the results.
Yeah. So is it fair to say, sorry to interrupt, but is it fair to say that the way you dealt with uncertainty then was to control what you can control?
Yeah. I think that's very true. And so I think this last time was, I didn't know what was coming around the corner. Yeah. So as I think about it a little bit, it'd be like, the early days of epilepsy with Mickey was, lots of stops and starts and turns and, off-roading, and, just if you think about it as a journey in a car. And we got to surgery and we're like, okay, we think we're in the clear. And then a month passes, and 2 months pass, 3 months pass, and we get to her second birthday, and that was our very first ever fundraiser charitable outreach. And so we had a birthday party and said, in lieu of gifts, we'd like money, and all money will go to buy rocking chairs for Chalk. And that was because while Mickey, as an infant and a very, very young baby, was in the hospital, that was a way that Christy could bond and provide solace and care to Mickey, was to rock her. Right. And so thinking about that journey again, we get to the second birthday and we finally exhale. We're like, okay, I think we're, good. Right. Not maybe great, but we're like,
at least
I think we're stabilized, right? So, and then that's really where Mickey's journey of really OT, PT, speech, music, swim therapy, all that stuff really starts taking off, and we begin to add more and more and more to help her, and that's when Mickey's Miracles kind of started, as people are being brought to us. And so So imagine now we're 2 years in and we're like, okay, like sky's starting to clear, sunshine and bird, like stuff's looking better.
Yeah.
And Mickey has blown everything away. And so we speed along now on that same road for 8 or 9 years. And I think when you caught me, I've been doing 120 mile on an open highway, screaming down the road, and like fog just hit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I can't turn because I can't see.
Yeah.
But something different's about to happen. And that's when Dr. Phillips walks in.
Wow. And, I can only imagine as a dad of, my daughter's 19 now, but I can put myself when she was Mickey's age. And, the world is a different place than when I was 11 or 12, than when you were 11 or 12. Judging by the gray in our beards, it's been a long time since we've been 11 or 12. But I never had to deal with a neurological impairment and or challenge with my daughter. And I still worried constantly about what world I was releasing her into. And I wonder how that impacts, as you see Mickey grow from, Mickey to Mickey, how does that factor into, your approach to it? Does it worry you? Is her kind of tomorrow on your mind all the time? Or are you still kind of day by day, checking the list, going through what you can control and really not worrying about that too much?
I think it's a mixture of both.
Yeah.
I really work to be present, just because we're so busy with so many things.
Yeah.
And wherever I am, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So that's, we're always with Mickey and with Preston and Harrison in the same way. But it seems like time's speeding up and they're getting older faster and growing faster. But for Michaela, we've always held a vision for an independent life. Mm-hmm. So be able to live on our own, handle transportation on our own, handle groceries and basic living things, purchasing, travel, that stuff on our own. And then the next step back from that would be with some sort of assistance,
right.
Maybe a caretaker or a friend or somebody to just kind of help make sure she's safe, but she's far more independent and free.
Right.
Which is really a dream come true from a little girl who we were told was never going to walk and never going to talk, or from not stopping her infantile seizures, infantile spasms. The drugs would have killed her. Mm-hmm. The disease would have killed her. Mm-hmm. Or she would have lived in a vegetative state. Like those were our three choices headed into brain surgery. Right. So I think every parent is, like we're talking about with Ella, right? Every parent is concerned about their kids, and all of our concerns are equal. They're just usually over different stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I got to think, though, they have to be a little bit more acute because of the challenges, right? I mean, Michaela still has to deal with social media, school stuff, people viewing her as differently, which I know she doesn't care about, but as a parent, you'll see that. And at least for me, I worry about my daughter in that way. She's got an alternative lifestyle, and I'm always concerned about, whether people are going to, challenge her in a way that is going to be hard for her, right? Just out of protection, not because she can't take care of herself, but just out of protection. So I just wonder, how, yes, the normal parental stuff is present for you, obviously, social media, bullying, all the stuff that happens, right, in this day and age. And on top of that, you have, some pretty difficult things, although she's doing great by any measure, right? Miraculous, really. I mean, it's not a coincidence that it's Mickey's Miracles. Exactly. It's aptly named. It was very visionary, and I think she's lived that. And I think Mickey's Miracles obviously provided many other miracles for the families. But how does that kind of factor into how you prepare as a dad, as you prepare to be a dad for her, not just today, but tomorrow, the day after tomorrow? And how does that relate to how you manage your emotions, your, your just overall mental being,
I think just get out of her way.
Yeah.
She is fearless. Yeah. I've always said that after brain surgery, they cut out fear.
Yeah.
And she doesn't meet anybody who's not a friend.
Yeah.
And so, when we have our ARD meetings and our IEPs, and we talk to the school, I'm most concerned that you protect her from somebody extinguishing her light. somebody being mean or awful or hurtful to her because she's different, or hurtful because maybe she speaks a little bit differently, or she can't do grade level math, or her handwriting isn't quite as good as somebody else. Like kids can be mean about anything, right? And so our whole thing is, I'm like, a 25-year-old Mickey is going to blow us all away. Like the world's like, she'll be in Oprah or a somebody. Like she'll be whatever she wants to be. Like knowing Mickey will be MG is what her stage name is right now. That's what she says. Hey, I'm MG. So whether it's arenas or schools or wherever she's, living out her passion or purpose, our goal is to provide a safe pathway for her to explore what is her destiny. And to not have somebody derail that out of ignorance or hate or poor programming from their, environment, so that she can do what she's here for. I mean, you ask Christy's like, Mickey's my mission. Like Mickey gave me my purpose in life, right? And it was a long road, and it was, and
there's still somewhere to travel.
Well, it will be forever. I mean, every child who's had a seizure has an almost infinite more likelihood of having a seizure again in life compared to, any of the kids who's never had an epileptic activity, right? So the fact that she has a malformed brain or differently formed brain and had surgery, I mean, we're always on guard for those things.
So that's what I want to get underneath. So always being on guard, what toll does that take on you? And how do you manage it so that you can be even and optimistic and present and be able to check off the list and not have it impact you emotionally or from an adverse mental health perspective, I know you don't love to talk about this stuff. But I think, listen, we spend, as you know, we spend a lot of time talking to moms. Moms are, by and large, overwhelmingly the primary caregiver. We have a lot of single moms that we work with. So a lot of our programming is geared towards moms. Certainly our mental health program incorporates dads, and we had a recent one where it was a real cool role play between a couple that helped a couple be regulated before having a very difficult conversation about their different reactions to the news they just got. So I think your perspective is incredibly important here, because it's not one we share often, but it's equally important. So how I know that's a long question. So how do you stay in a state that you can be present and come from a place of gratitude and take care of yourself without it really kind of just compromising your mental health?
Well, I'm sure in some ways it has compromised my mental health. And my only choice or my defense is to stay positive, to stay engaged. And luckily Mickey makes that easy. Right? She is happy and positive. She wakes up, throws her feet on the ground, and she's like, "Hello, day, let's go." Right? Let's go have fun. She's as bright and colorful as this picture here. So she makes that easy. And certainly there's been darker times and harder times. As you're talking, I think about being in the military, and I think about being a dad, and the word that came up was like warrior, right? Being a warrior, being a fighter, and if you could, and I think this goes for all parents as well, it's like, could I take that on for my kid, right? Could somehow I have that affliction and she not, or
But what are some of the things that you do on a daily basis, for self-care or for your own benefit, that, because part of what we do with the Caring for Caregivers program is we want to share practical coping skills, right? Connect to community. And that means something different to everyone, but connection to community is a consistent thread through all of the conversations we have. Making the time for self-care, and that can mean different things for different people, but making the time, acknowledging that it's not easy, and giving yourself permission to say, hey, this is really hard, and I might need help some days, and some days I might not
need so much help. So what's your version of that, you know?
Well, if I don't get it done before 6:30, for me, it doesn't happen.
Okay.
So that'd be first.
Yeah.
So for me and my faith, we're Christian, and
Right.
so I've got the Bible app on my phone, and before my feet hit the floor in the morning, I open it up and I read the verse of the day and say a little prayer to start my day. You know, and then it's sometimes off to yoga, or sometimes upstairs to the Peloton, or sometimes outside for a walk, or just to move. And at my age, just movement's good. I mean, you're stronger and fitter, and than I am. But
It's just a shirt, man. It's
a
a little bit too small.
Yeah,
That's all.
Yeah. Did you get that out of Preston's closet?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just medium.
So, so just kind of knowing the windows of time when I can do that. I don't feel like I'm taking away from parenting or Christy or my company or any of that stuff when I do stuff early in the morning. And it's also more repeatable that way for me.
Yeah.
If I put it, I'm going to go to the gym at 4, it's like, that's never going to happen, because the entire world converges and switches over from,
Right.
So
if I'm hearing correctly, faith, movement, and creating the time for faith and movement, intentionally creating the space so it doesn't interfere with, your responsibility as a dad or as a CEO or as a member of the community who's very, very active in the local community. So you prioritize it.
Well,
you plan it.
And I'm also not attached to what it looks like.
Yeah.
So frankly, when I say Peloton, it might be a 10-minute bike ride.
Yeah.
Right. But 10 minutes is better than 0 minutes.
Right.
And so being able to celebrate what I do versus beat myself up for it wasn't enough.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And I think that's a great place to end, because I think we can really be hard on ourselves and strive for perfectionism, but life isn't perfect. It gives us different curveballs, and our journeys are all kind of intertwined with life is going to challenge us in some way, right? And it's up to us to decide how we choose to respond to that. But I have to say, I love you so much, Gabe, and you're such a great example to me as a father, as a man, and I just love how evenly you approach all of this and how selflessly you approach it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love his honesty. I love his vulnerability, and really just appreciate the man that he is and how he shows up and how mindful and present he is always. For the dads out there, I hope this was helpful to you. For the moms out there as well, if you have any questions or any suggestions for our mental health care programming as part of the Caring for Caregivers mental health program, we'd love to hear from you. My email is dario@mickey'smiracles.org. If you want to learn more about the program, you can go to mickey'smiracles.org. And we also have previous webinars that we've facilitated on there as well. We keep them up there for your review, and you can see the number of topics that we've covered. Our hope is that they may apply to you, that you might find some solace, that you might find some community, that you might find some practical tips to support you in your mental health journey as you provide care for your child and or children. And again, on behalf of Christy Grease, our CEO and visionary founder, we thank our sponsors. We thank the members of our community who have been so receptive to this programming, and those professionals who have welcomed our outreach and participated to make this really a rich and robust offering for all caregivers caring for medically complex children. You can find us at mickey'smiracles.org. You can find us on Instagram at Mickey's Miracles, on Twitter at Mickey's Miracles, same as Facebook. And we'd love to hear from you. We're grateful that you're part of our community. And until next time, we hope you stay in great mental health. And if we can be of service to you and your family, you know where to find us. Thank you.